You ready?
Mm.
My name is Gayle Carnegie, and this documentary is just the story of my life. I want to start where I was about 13 years old. 13 years old when I really wanted to explore New York City. I wanted to explore. I was a very adventurous kid. I wasn't satisfied with what was just going on around me. Like in the neighborhood, I wanted to know what was really out there. And at an early age, at the age of 13, I started drinking, casually with the neighborhood friends and smoking marijuana. We started smoking marijuana about 13, 14 years old. And I knew that they bought it in New York City. And I wanted to go there and do that. So, I used to get an allowance, and for lunch, for I went to a Catholic school, and that was the framework like that made me want to get outside of myself because it was so strict, and we were in a uniform, and we if I had to follow rules, I just wanted to do what I wanted to do at an early age. So I saved my money, and they told me where to go in New York. They said 168 in Edgecombe. That's it. It's uptown. I'm not sure if that's Harlem. I know it's uptown. And so I got on the train. I cut school that day. I got on the train and I went uptown. And this is my first experience with New York now. My first experience with Manhattan. Like, all I had was the directions. And I remember one time before that, my father had said, you want to go to New York? Here's $20. Go to New York. But that time I was afraid. Like, I made it as far as Penn Station, and I came out of Penn Station, and I, walked around where Macy's is, and then I felt like I did something, and I got on back on the train, and I came home and told them the story. But this time, I was determined to find the weed spot. And that was the first sign of my addiction. Like, it was the first, because to venture out that far away and living in New Jersey, something was going on with me, but I didn't care. I wanted to be this ideal drug dealer. I did. I wanted to be that because they were the one that had the money, they had the jewelry, they had the nice cars, and they seemed to be very happy. They seemed to be happy. So I took the train uptown. I got off at 168 in Edgecombe, and then I saw the people mingling. Like, they were mingling back and forth. And then a person was saying, we got it here, we got it here. That's how they bring the customers in. It's almost like calling you to who has it. So I just followed the crowd because the crowd was all waiting for one specific person. I followed the crowd, and that was the first time I really ventured out and bought a large quantity of weed. I think I had about $80. And back then, we used to get a lot of weed for $80. So then I got back on the train and I came home. So I felt successful, and I felt the rush of I didn't get caught. I made it back home. I didn't get robbed. And I no longer wanted to hang with the neighborhood children, so to speak. I no longer wanted to hang with them after that. After that, I think that was one of the last times I hung with them because to me, they were moving too slow. And
what was the quantity of the weed?
I think the quantity was like an ounce or 2 ounces.
$80 for an ounce?
Yeah, about 2 ounces.
And you brought it back home with you?
I brought it back home and I, bagged it up because you had to put it in the little bags. They were little paper bags. And then I was, trying to be the drug dealer, trying to get sales and learning the craft, so to speak. Learning, some people gonna pay you, some people's not. Some people just want to be with you because you have it. They don't have any money. Other people will never buy nothing from you because they're jealous. So that was the initial um, time that I went to New York. So after that, we would we got jobs around 16. We got little after school job at the mall. We used to work at the Willowbrook Mall, and we would get paid on Friday, and we would go to party in New York, at the Roxy's, the Roseland, the Garage, all the house music or disco, all the disco music places, and you were free to get high in there. You were free to get high in there. Nobody checked your pockets. They checked for guns. They really wasn't checking for drugs. And we would be there to the wee hours in the morning, to where my mother would say, well, where was you all night? I said, oh, I spent the night with my girlfriend, but she never saw me get started, and by the time she saw me, I wasn't high anymore. So she never saw me pick up, and she never saw me crash, so to speak. By the time I saw her, I was back to my normal self. So I don't think she caught on right away, because she had her own life, and I was the youngest of 4 children. So we were in the party scene, and in the party scene, we wanted to hang with the it crowd, the crowd that dressed the nicest, and that's why we worked. So we could buy an outfit, and it was this ritual every week. We had to buy an outfit, we had to have money in our pocket, and we were acting out on a fantasy. That's all it was. We were playing out. I'm gonna talk about me. I was almost pretending that I was wealthy. Was pretending.
And you bought this to sell to your friends?
Yes.
Okay.
I bought the weed to sell to my friends, and sometime I sold a little, sometime I didn't. I would end up smoking it myself and just go back up there the next week, because by Friday, it was a ritual. I would go back up there again.
Mm.
Around 18, I graduated from high school and I went on to college. And the drugs went on with me. They went right on with me. I went to college in Ohio, and I found where they had drugs in Ohio. I didn't have a car at first. I got a job, I got a car, then I got a license. Because out there, nobody's on your back like that. You could drive around. They don't even know you got a license or not. They don't stop you. But I got the car, then I got the license, then I got the insurance. But it was very hard because I was coming from this area, moving to Ohio. I went to Central State University, and I didn't know anybody there. So I had to learn what went on. I was always a fast learner. I had to learn what went on there. And the college students were looking for weed. So they became the hazers, the ones pledging. They became my best customers, the ones pledging. And I remember rolling up 500 joints. We used to roll the little joints in white paper. I remember rolling up 500 of them and selling them. They were going so fast, and people would start to look for me to purchase it. But my professors in college didn't know that I was doing that. I would come in dressed like the perfect student, so to speak. I wouldn't sit with the loud crowd. I sat off to the side, and I think I was not antisocial, but had social anxiety because of the situation. You're always a little standoffish with who you're dealing with, because you never know when somebody's going to say something. Well, that went on to I bought an apartment. That went on to I got a car, because the money started coming in, and I started buying from this guy in Detroit, because he would come down to the college campus. My girlfriend was dating him, and he said, well, I could supply you. You just got to give me your money, and I'll bring down whatever you want each time. So that's what happened. He became our supplier. She was dating him, but I was being supplied by him. And my first bout with the police was I was at a little convenience store and found a pocketbook in there. Found some lady's pocketbook, and I kept it, because I didn't come from you turn it into the police department, but that was the rules in that state, and I didn't know that either. By this time, I was renting a house, and I had tenants I was renting to, college students that was renting a room from me for, little to nothing, $100 a month, or whatever. And I found the woman's pocketbook, and somebody told them, the police. I came home for Thanksgiving. I came here, and I said, I'm going to bring some weed back from here but then something happened, and I couldn't bring it back. Something happened at the last minute, so I said, well, I'll get it when I get there. Well, I got it when I got there. I didn't know the police was following me from the airport. They were following me behind that woman's pocketbook, but they couldn't pick me up until I crossed over into their county. They couldn't pick me up, but I had told the girl when I was coming back, and she told the police that she said she'll be back on the 5th of September. But I stopped at a girlfriend's house that lived in another county. I ended up selling what I had to her, so I didn't have anything left by the time I got to the county the college was in. And that's when they pulled over and they picked me up and they said, well, where's the weed? Where's the weed? So then I knew that somebody had told on me. I knew.
They were following you because of the pocketbook, or they're just following you
They were following me for the pocketbook initially, and then she told them that I was coming back with marijuana, so they were going to get me for both. But since I didn't have any more, because I stayed at the girl's house for 2 days or so, they couldn't bust me for it. We smoked it. I sold it to her friends, and then we were going back to school, and that's when they picked me up. But she was nice enough to call my mother and father and let them know what had happened to me so that they could send me money to get out. Well, when I went to see the judge said, well, we could only pick you up about the pocketbook. You were supposed to turn it in. So what we're going to do is you're not going to have a record, but I'm going to make you return back here for 30 days. If you're not in class, you have to be held by the county jail. That was my first time in my last going to jail because I didn't realize the claustrophobia I had. I had a high level of claustrophobia. Like when the door slammed, I felt it. And I said, oh, this could never happen again. Well, he only made me report back for 30 days. And then I didn't have a record because I complied. I was in compliance. But that taught me to not tell anybody my business and to not get so comfortable with people. But by the time I came back to my apartment, the place I was renting out to people, they had sold all my stuff and kept what I had. They had stole from me. And that taught me not to trust people, that I should have had a lock on my door or something, not leaving my door open, and they would violate me like that. And then when I went to the friend's house, the girlfriend who was dating the guy from Detroit, she sold everything that I had there. I didn't have not one outfit to wear, and no product, but I went and got a job. So that was I got to start all over again, because at different levels in the game, you start over, So that was my first time saying, I can't believe these people let me down and did that. So my mother and father wanted me to come back to New Jersey. They had enough with that. I only had one more year before I graduated, but they wanted me to come back to New Jersey. So I came back. And coming back to New Jersey, I brought the drug habit right back to New Jersey. I hooked up with the same friends I used to have who were still doing the same things. We were just a little older now. We're just a little older.
So not too much trouble with the cops yet.
Just that's that minor infraction or whatever.
And you were just selling weed around campus.
I was selling
for the
weed.
for the first couple of years.
You
didn't get into anything different.
Nah.
Other than that, okay.
Nah, it didn't really accelerate yet. But when I came back to New Jersey and got with the old crowd, by this time they were doing coke, and so was I. Now there, I wasn't doing it. I saw people doing it. I even sold it there, here and there. But I wasn't interested with it because the guy from Detroit said, never let this white shoe get on your foot. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, never do this one. Don't do it. It's addictive. So maybe he knew I was an addict. I don't know. But he told me never to do it. But when I came back, everybody was freebasing by then. Everybody that I knew, they were freebasing, and that's who I hung with. So that's when I tried it. I liked it. I liked the high. I think I liked the fantasy. It keeps being the fantasy, pretending to be rich, because it was a rich man's drug. You see the wealthy on TV. Oh, they were sniffing coke in the Roxy's, the Roseland. That's all you see is the stories about it. The music was about it. White lines. Remember that song, White Lines? Yeah, that was our life. Like, we were acting out what we saw on TV and in the music, the rap music, and that era. We were living it to its fullest. So by then, I wanted to move out. I was used to living by myself. There was no way I could live with my family no more because I was used to doing what I wanted. And I moved in with my daughter's father. I moved in with him. And he always says he was never doing drugs before he got with me. But you gravitated to it so easy. I don't really believe that. But I'm going to let him have his story, okay? And so then we lived together. And I was more responsible than him. I was more responsible to pay the rent and not blow all the money on drugs. But he developed the habit of, if he got paid, you put the money on the table, we're going to go through it all. We're going to have this big lavish party, and now we don't have the rent. So that was the first time I got pregnant. In the first pregnancy, I didn't keep the baby. I had an abortion. And then, I got pregnant again. And I said, I can't keep having abortions. Like, this is crazy. Like, I wasn't protecting myself because the lifestyle was so fast. I wasn't even concerned with that, Oh, we were just doing any method of birth control, but we weren't using any. So the baby came. My daughter came, and I was pregnant. I was still using. Pregnant and using because the drug had accelerated. The habit, the lifestyle had accelerated where I was pregnant and still using. Every week I would say, I'm going to quit next week. I'm going to quit next week. It never happened. Mm-hmm. It never happened until my water broke. And then it was time for the baby. And the baby was born at 1 pound. They did not expect the baby to live. I never cried that much in my life. I never prayed that much. I would pray with everybody. You could be a Christian, Muslim, Jew. It didn't matter. I kept praying for this baby so that she would live, And I gave birth alone. I had no prenatal care. It was classic, the story that they tell that happens in the hood. I was classic. I was the poster child for that. And my baby stayed in the hospital for 9 months. I would go see my baby every day and then come home. And the guilt was horrible, but the habit was still there. I just couldn't shake the habit. Didn't want to. I was still getting high. I was hiding it. I would go to the hospital, visit the baby, then come home and then get high. And then because I wasn't breastfeeding, she was taken from the bottle, you know, from she started with an eyedropper. That's how severe her case was because she had surgery early on, and in the first month she was born, her gut exploded. So they had to reattach the gut, and then they couldn't feed her regular milk because she was allergic to this. She was allergic. We did not expect her to live. We did not expect. I never cried for 9 months straight, and I promised God. I said, God, I can't. I don't think I could quit, but I'm gonna do the best I can to take care of her. And I kept my promise. You know, I put her in a daycare that was for prenatal, you know, neonatal children, and I would go to work. I would work 2 jobs, but the habit, it was still there. The habit was still there. And by this time, I was in the system, you know, because the babies qualified for SSI, so I was getting a check for that. And this is when I started to manipulate. Manipulate would be the correct word. I was getting a check from SSI. I was getting the check from the welfare. I was getting the food stamps. I was getting the check from work. I was getting the check from unemployment. I didn't care by any means necessary. I had to provide for me and that baby and that habit. That habit was the other child, really. The habit was severe. I mean, I can remember getting high every day. Only way I missed a day is I didn't have no money or I didn't have time. So then I started meeting men because by now my daughter's father wasn't living with me because he couldn't pay the rent and I wasn't taking care of him. My best friend, she moved in with me. And I started meeting men and I started dating multiple men, you know.
And was it mostly you were not selling drugs at this point, or were you?
I was always selling them.
You were always selling.
Like with drugs, you're always selling. You know, you would buy a lot. Whoever come over, ring the bell. Instead of them going in and out, here, let me just sell you 2. I'll sell you 5. And then when we need more, somebody would go back out, and because it's safer than running in and out. Because the neighbors where I was living, the running in and out, they kept reporting me to the landlord. You know what I'm saying? Every month they would report me. And the landlord would come and say, you know, could you cut down on the company? They're saying you're having a lot of company. But I always kept myself looking very nice because I would make enough money to shop too. I had a shopping habit that is insane. I would buy an outfit I couldn't afford and worry about everything else later, you know. I would keep my hair done. I knew if you kept yourself looking the part, the money gonna come. The money gonna come. As long as you didn't let yourself get worn out and looking bad, you could get money from anybody. It didn't matter who I got it from. Anybody, everybody, every day. And one thing I was good at is keeping my word. If I had those jobs, remember I had the job, the unemployment, the welfare, and everything. So if I promised to pay you on Friday, you got your money. You got it. If I had to be broke and made sure I paid you, you got your money because I knew I could come back if I kept my word. And the drug habit got worse than that. It got worse. But I met a guy who was, I guess I would describe him as a genius. I'm just going to say what he was. And I didn't like him at first. I didn't. But I guess that's what made him attracted to me because I didn't like him at first. And he had 6 welfare cases. That's what turned my head. When he said, oh, I got 6 welfare cases. I get 12 checks a month from the system. That's what the money drew me in, not the relationship. You know, 2 people, they meet, they normally like each other. I wasn't like that. If you didn't have any money, I wouldn't speak to you. You didn't exist. You didn't exist. So he was telling me the things he was doing because he lived in New York, but he moved here and he got a condo not far from where I lived. You know, it's like a condo development. And I said, how do you pay for that condo? Because he came over to get high too. I said, how are you paying for that? He said, oh, well, I came into a lot of money, you know, and was telling his story, right? So I wanted to believe him because it was less of a job for me to go out and get money, you know, and prostitute, trick, whatever, any means necessary, any way, anyhow, just to get a couple dollars. So by meeting him, he was telling me, as we met each day, he would call me, say, I'm coming over, we're going to get high. But as he came over, we would sit and talk, like I'm talking to you now. And he was saying, I write my own prescriptions. You know, I said, what? He said, yeah, I write my own prescriptions too. And this is when I said, this person is different than a lot of people. You don't hear people being that open and honest about what they're doing, number one, and bringing in that kind of money. Now, he wasn't writing prescriptions for Percocets or Oxycontin. Nah, he wasn't writing that. He was writing prescriptions for sickle cell medication to somebody that he met that was going to a third world country like Mexico or wherever and taking the sickle cell medication back there. So he was on a higher level because Percocets and Oxycontin pay some money. They pay about $900 or $1,600 a month, you know. But he was getting $3,900 for each prescription, and he had 12 prescriptions in 12 pharmacies and 6 refills. So you could just do the math right there. He was collecting about $28,000 a week just from the prescriptions, somewhere around there.
I'm not sure. How is he actually? What is he doing to? Can you explain what does he do? He's selling them.
He's the loan shark. He's supplying the neighborhood with the money to buy drugs, and that's when I started dating him because I didn't have to go out and make no money now if I didn't want to. He was writing the prescriptions and he was loaning out the money. So if he say he took in $3,000 and he loaned out the money, and you would get back double.
So he was writing this prescription.
He was running. He was the loan. He was the man in the neighborhood. He was the top dog in the neighborhood. Everybody needed him, whether they were, whether they were using or not using, they needed him some way, shape, or form. People that weren't even using was borrowing money from him for whatever their need was. People that were using were borrowing their money from him. And then the drug dealers, the money flowed in a circle. He would write the prescriptions, the money would be borrowed, it would go to the drug dealer, and then back to him. See, I was living with him. So I was the one that knew the people. I knew the dealers too. Then I had to get my cut, and then it's still coming to me because it's coming back to the house because he took the money, some of it, and bought a house. Mm-hmm. So now we don't live in an apartment no more. We live in a house that they built prefabricated around the corner.
So he was writing these prescriptions and getting the drugs and then selling them to somebody else.
He wasn't getting the drugs. He was loaning the money out to the neighborhood, mm-hmm. and they were buying the drugs from the dealers.
But with the sickle cell medicate, you said this.
Oh, okay. What he would do is pick up the prescription and take it to a spot in New York, and then the man would pay him the 3,900 early in the morning. We went there 8 o'clock in the morning, at least 4 times a week, and pick up the money. And then he said, well, you can go in Macy's and get you a couple of outfits or whatever, and then let's go.
So he would sell that to the pharmacy? So he would sell the
He would sell it to the non-man. They call it a non-man. I don't know what non stand for. I never asked. But this man would buy the prescriptions from him and give him 3,900 in cash.
But how did he actually acquire
The non-man?
Or how did he get the medication itself? Like
He wrote the prescriptions himself. He went to the library and learned how to write the prescription, and bought the pad from a printer, got the ID number with the stamper. Remember they used to stamp the pad? And then he would put it in a pharmacy, put the prescription in a pharmacy. He just would send somebody else in, not himself.
Okay.
So he sends somebody who wants $20, just put the prescription in the pharmacy. When they fill it, go back and get it. That's it. That's the most he had to do is give a person $20 a couple times a week. They would go back because the pharmacy knew the person then. They would go back and pick up the refill. And it wasn't as obvious. The refill was 6 refills, so it was once a month for 6 months. But it wasn't obvious, like, because they were looking for people who were selling Percocet and Oxycontin. Mm-hmm. They weren't looking for somebody selling sickle cell medication.
Right.
They wasn't looking for that.
Right. Okay, so he
became the boyfriend. That's the point of me bringing him up.
Mm-hmm.
He became the boyfriend. He bought me the brand new car off the showroom floor, brand new Pathfinder, drove it right off the lot. Didn't even need to put no money down. He had good credit. So he bought the house first. I got the house for Christmas. That was my Christmas present. A brand new house, everything in it new. Prefabricated, you know those houses? And we had a tenant on the first floor. We lived on the second. We had 3 bedrooms, central air, backyard, front yard, brand new car. So you could see where I went from being outside, asking for change, begging for dollars, to now I go to New York almost every day and get my hair done twice a week. Nails always done, feet always done. I remember having 20 bracelets like these, 10 on each arm, anklets, toe rings, everything. Anything you could think of, I had. He knew the person on the pier where the boxes come in that bring the designer clothes, okay? So he was getting it right off the boat. Brand new Burberry. I remember having Burberry for sure. I remember having Mark Cross. You know how hard it is to get one of those bags? And this was back in the 90s. I had it right, pop the box. You know, it come in a big box. And the bag, I could take the bags I wanted. I could give one to my friends if I wanted to do that for them. I could sell it to them, whatever. I could do whatever I wanted. He wasn't even concerned with that at all. He wasn't concerned with nothing like that. Mm-hmm. Nothing. I think my car note was $900. I never paid it. I never paid the insurance, nothing. He paid the car off, I think, in maybe 4 or 5 months. He paid the car off, and I wanted another one because I went on vacation, because he would let me go on vacation, but he couldn't go because he was always collecting money. He was addicted to money, so he wanted to stay home and collect. And he let somebody drive my car because he was dating some other girl. I didn't even care. I had enough of my own that wasn't even a problem. I just was like, don't bring her on the block. Don't bring her around where I live at. Show me that much respect. And you know, today, I wouldn't even do that. You know, the person I am today, I wouldn't do that. But he was dating someone else. She drove my car. She had an accident. And then I didn't want the car no more. I was like, you let your girlfriend drive my car and y'all had an accident? Why didn't you just get a cab? Or why didn't you just buy her a car? I didn't even care. Like, I had no respect at all because I wasn't mad that he had a girlfriend. I was saying, we built this organization together. It's like an organization. If people had to get paid, don't think people didn't have to get paid for them to be quiet. And I made sure I paid everybody. If I didn't pay you, I treated you. If I didn't pay you or treat you, I took your kids out with my daughter. Or if the ice cream truck came, I said, give them all ice cream. Give them all the ice cream. Just as long as nobody's shaking the cage, you get whatever you wanted. Because it wasn't bleeding me dry. It wasn't bleeding me at all. Not at all. Because people bought stuff to my house to sell to him to get money, you know. Oh, for Christmas, I used to tell them, I don't want the people's stuff that their family bought them. And now they run around the corner selling it to us. And you telling me, wait for my gift. Like I'm getting these people's gifts that their family bought them. I said, no, you're going to take me to the mall and I'm going to get what I want. And he said, why don't we just see what they got though first, you know, because he was always trying to save money. And I was always trying to spend it. I was always trying to spend it. Like nothing was too much for me. Nothing. You know how you put stuff back? Like when we would, you know, in relationships, you break up to make up. So when we would break up, now I got to go to the store myself. I never gave up that apartment around the corner that's where we used to go and get high. But at night, I lived in the house. So I kept the apartment because we weren't married. If you ain't marrying me, why would I do that? You could dump me at any time. So when we used to break up and I had to go to the store, like to buy groceries, and they would say, I was so used to putting anything in the cart, just fill the cart up and let's get out of here. And I remember paying for other people's groceries because I had no tolerance, zero tolerance for patient to be waiting. You know, if you were in line in front of me, I said, how much is your stuff? Here, get your stuff and get out of here. I had no respect at all. My friends used to be like, God, why you do the old lady like that? I said, what, you wanted me to bag it up? I paid for it, but I didn't have to talk to her like that, you know. Right. But when we would break up, now I got to pay for my own stuff. I'm like, what? How much is the stuff? $400. They're like, yeah, $400. You got to pay for it. But I'm so used to him doing it that, you know how they have the magazine racks. I get all of them. I'll be in the house sometime. Let me get all the magazines, all the gum. You know how they have that in front of the counter? Mm-hmm. All the ribs, spare ribs, whatever. Lobster, shrimp. Because he used to even get the people's food stamp cards. So I didn't have to even pay for food. I have like 15 cards while I'm at the grocery store, swiping them. So when I started getting so many cards, I said the guilt. That was the first sign of guilt started setting in. Because I said, I don't like taking these people money they're supposed to feed their kids with. I just didn't. It didn't settle with me. Like, so on Fridays, I used to have a barbecue. I have a big grill, and I put all the meat out there and let everybody just come around and eat. I said, you gotta feed these people before somebody tell on you, because I always used to feel like somebody gonna tell something. When they don't get the money, or just sheer jealousy, somebody gonna tell something. So we stayed in a relationship for about, I guess I would say it was 15 years. It was about 15. And he had a stroke. So you know what happened then? The party ended. The house had to go back to the bank. You know that. If it ain't paid for, my name wasn't on there. I told him, put my name on the house. He said, no, I don't want to do that to you. I don't want to leave you with a bill. I said, don't even worry about it. Knowing what I know now, I could have got the equity out of the house. You know what I'm saying? The car had to go back. I had more than one car. At one time we had 3. The car had to go back. You know, everything goes back to the bank or the dealership when the person bringing in the money passed away. He died. So at the same time, I was in love with the drug dealer. I was. gonna be honest. I know you're gonna see this. I know he's gonna see this on YouTube, so I know I'm gonna tell the truth. I was in love with him too, and that's when he said, the one that died, he was like, whatever you do, don't leave me. Even if you're in love with him, don't leave me. So that was like a free ride for me. It was like, we had respect. What you're doing with whoever you're with, don't do it and where you live at. And he had a girlfriend too. And just so happened that his girlfriend got sick before he died. She had a brain tumor. That was just so, I was like, you got to go to the hospital and see her. You're not going to be able to live with. She died like that. And you're worrying about how I'm feeling right now. No, you got to honor what y'all had. And 6 months after she died, he died. He died after that. I think he died from a broken heart.
Okay. So you were dating. Well, why did you think he was a genius? The guy who was writing prescriptions. Why do you call him a genius?
I call him a genius because he had multiple streams of income, and people just now really doing that. He was doing that back then, and he had different ways of getting it. Like, he was like, you ever see a first edition book in your life? He had it. He had the first edition Peter Pan. I was like, how did you get it? He said, I got it out of the library. I'm like, how'd you get it out of the library? Because they'll let you look at it, but they won't move too far away from it that you could get it out of the library. He sold it for $16,000. I was there. So the reason why I felt he was a genius, because the way his mind worked using people, not using himself. He knew how to use people and accommodate them where they don't even know they're really being used, or they don't even care. He knew their price. He said everybody has a price. Everybody has a price.
How did he steal? He stole the book.
He stole the book from the library, and he sold it to an antique store in Manhattan for $16,000.
Did you ask him how he got it out?
I never asked him how he got it out. No, I didn't. Yeah, because one time he got caught by the FBI. He did, with the prescriptions. He was eventually, he wrote some for somebody else, and he told them, don't put them in today. They did it anyway. They got caught, and then they told on him, but they didn't know where he lived at. He still had that condo around the corner, I told you. That's where he lived with his wife, but the house he bought for me and him, okay? So they came to the condo, and he had to go to jail, and he was there for, like, they book you first. Since it was his first offense, the judge wasn't hard on him, but the wife left him there for a week. So I thought he was gone, but then he came, and that's when he moved out with the wife. He said, I'm moving out because she left me in jail for the week. She know I have the money, He felt that she did that because he left her for me. You know what I'm saying? But he still always respected the wife. I believe he was paying the rent over there. The mortgage. I believe he was. I never questioned what he did, because I don't feel like you should have to babysit a man. I never felt like that. Like, if the man doesn't tell you where the money came from, I remember telling the police that I stayed in a woman's place. Why would I ask my man where he got the money from? Well, what would make you do? Your wife don't ask you when you come home if you're married. Where'd you get the money? She don't do that, right? See? That's not staying in a woman's place, or your girlfriend. That's not it. I stayed in a woman's place and knew how to be a lady. I really didn't know how to be a lady when I had to be, And I knew how to hang out in the street when I had to be,
What was his, what did he get for, did he get a sentence for?
He got probation.
That's it? For writing the description? Okay.
Yeah. and they took the pills that he had in the house. He had boxes of pills, which I told him, why you got boxes of pills? He said, I'm waiting for the price to go up. I said, why don't you just get rid of it and take what you're getting from it? You're getting it for free. And he admitted, he said, Gayle, you was right. I should have did that. I should have got rid of it. But they never lifted the bed up, and that's where the money was. It was not in between the mattress and the box spring, lower under the box spring, in like plastics, you know what I'm saying? Because he always felt like I spent too much money, so he left some over at that condo, and he had some at their house, and then at the apartment. But it wasn't that I spent too much money. I was living my dream. That was your dream, this is mine. My fantasy, it came true. Like I could go across the street to the Short Hills and get whatever I wanted. Like I was just like the women there. But I didn't get the money like they got it. Maybe their husband gave them their credit card, or or they had good jobs. But I was sitting right there with them, like sitting right amongst them every day, So I learned a lot from them too. I learned a lot. And I always studied fashion. Fashion was my first addiction. It was the first one. So I knew St. John knit, I knew Gucci, YSL, all of them from back in the 90s. I knew them back then. They knowing them now, Now they're popular now. But they were so exclusive back then, that if you were on that level, you were bringing in some money because the prices haven't changed. It was $5,000 back then. It's $5,000 now. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But my father had bought me my first bag when I was 16 years old. I think he's the one that could lay claim to me having that shopping habit. He could lay claim to it. But he probably knew what type of woman he wanted his daughter to be,
So you were with the guy writing the prescriptions. You were with him.
I was with him for about 12, maybe 15 years.
And were you using like?
I was using the whole time.
The whole time.
The whole time, but the emphasis wasn't on the drug because the money was coming in. It wasn't in desperation, because I could get it. I could get it when I want. I could come outside. I could treat everybody. I could just treat myself. So I began to be caring about the community. I said, well, let me give the kids a back to school party. Let's get them all book bags and pencils and pens, because I still had the daughter there. I still had the little girl with the whole Barbie room. She had a Barbie room before, like the little canopy bed. She had everything I always wanted. The canopy bed, the computer in her room, even though she was disabled, she had it all. She had designer shoes. She had whatever money could buy because of the guilt of using and her getting sick as a child. Nothing was too much for me to do for her. Nothing.
And he wasn't selling drugs. He was just writing prescriptions and loaning money out. And also people would come to him selling things. And and so like food stamps, they come to him. And
they would sell the stamps.
He'd buy the food stamps.
Yep.
Okay.
And he was my source. He was my walking wallet. That's what I used to call him.
Was the police following him at this point?
The police only followed him for those pills.
Okay.
After that, they didn't bother him until he started cashing people Social Security checks. I said, stop cashing those people checks. You don't even know where they're getting them from. You don't even see their name on it. They just coming to you with a check talking about, oh, my grandmother needs somebody to cash her check. It wasn't even the girl check. She was taking it out the mailboxes, getting him to cash it. They were splitting the money, and then they froze his account. And then all he could say is, oh, I was helping somebody out, and I cashed the check for him. And they told him to pay back the money, which he had it. He had it, and they let that go too. They let that go. But he died before he even got his pension. He had also was a token taker. You know, you take the tokens in New York in the booth. Yeah, did that, and before that, he worked at the post office. He would have got 2 pensions by now. He would have got 2 pensions, and he was also getting disability from the he was in the service. That's why I considered him one of the smartest people I ever met. Because that's a lot of sources of income. Like money was coming from everywhere.
Well, you know, most people probably wouldn't take a job or 2 jobs if they had that kind of money coming in through writing prescriptions. They would just not.
He had the jobs before then.
Oh, okay,
like in his teenage years.
Oh, all right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now it was almost time for the pension. You know, you gotta wait for a certain age.
So he kept those jobs during all this?
No, he got his 20 years in before he was doing that.
Oh, okay.
He went there when he was like 17.
Yeah.
And 20 is 37.
Okay.
And then he started doing that afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I consider him a very smart person.
Right. So he had a lot of.
Yeah.
He just had a lot of streams of income. Not a lot of people were doing that during that time.
Not a lot of people.
And he was just a financial.
He was like a pioneer of
Yeah.
what he was doing. Yeah.
Financial genius. Maybe.
Yeah. Financial genius.
Okay.
I also dated the well, I fell in love with the drug dealer. I was so in love with him. I don't know if it was lust or it was love, but it could have been just for the drug. You know how that is. But I had to be around this man every day. And the man never really liked me. You know, he would take my money, of course. That's what he was out there for. But he never really liked me. I ended up having him, though. I ended up having him one time. But he never really, I don't know if he envied me, but I know he told he called the DIFUS on me a couple times because my daughter was friends with his family. And he think I never knew that. But I know he told. My daughter told me. He told, and they used to come. That's after the boyfriend died. I had to move back to the apartment. And the neighbors would say, oh, she's having parties up there. They up there doing drugs all night with that little girl up there. So that was my first time I had to stop using because the lady said, I just need to check your house and see if your refrigerator is full, if you got clean clothes. You know, my house was in order. I used to pay people to clean the house. The refrigerator was full. The house was clean. So she said, I don't know why people are saying you're getting high. You don't even look like it. Because I never looked like it. Because, you know, I used to buy them expensive clothes and keep myself up. So usually people are run down who's using drugs. So she came back 3 times. And then the 4th time she said, well, just let me do the urine test and I ain't got to come back no more. And then I had to admit it. Why would I take her through that and I know I was getting high? I said, Miss, I'm getting high. I'm getting high. So she said, well, you want me to help you go to a program, you know, like an NA? I said, no, I could find one myself. And I did. I found the program and I started going to the meeting. Because they said 90 days you could break any habit. I remember them saying that. And I didn't want my daughter to be at some foster home with some man taking advantage of her. That was my it was like where I drew the line. You know, everybody has boundaries. That was at the point I drew the line because my fear was she was going to be at some foster home. They was going to be abusing her, not feeding her, and some man up in that house was going to be having oral sex with her. That was just it scared me to death. So I quit. I was like, I got to quit. I can't let this happen to this little girl who was already in the hospital for 9 months when she was born. So I quit and I went 89 days. And then the guy that was the drug dealer, he said something to me. I was so proud of myself. I went 89 days. And he said something that pissed me off. So I knew right then, that I couldn't control the habit because he made me so mad. I said, oh, fuck it. I'm getting high anyway. Excuse my language. I said, I'm getting high anyway. Fuck it. What I'm doing this to get you and to keep my daughter, but you said something that I didn't like that day, and I went back. I went back for a year and a half. Because sometimes you think you're going back for 2 days, and 2 days end up being a year and a half. So a year and a half went by, and I was going to work, and it was good, it was bad, in a year and a half. Some days I was out there begging for change. Other days I had a lot of money. But this time, I said, I'm not getting this income tax check and waste it. Because the income tax check come around February, March, and that was a large amount of money, being I had a dependent. So I said, I'm not going to blow this money. I'm going to get a car this time. I'm going to get a car because I didn't have a car after he died. Remember, the car went back to the dealership. So I was walking to work, and God be my witness, and nobody never got to believe me. I don't care. I swear I heard the voice of the Lord. I swear I heard it. And he said, I'm going to help you this time. But if you ever get high again, I'm never going to help you. I heard that. I heard it in my spirit. I heard it all around me. It's like it was coming from everywhere. So I went home and I said, this is my last day. Whoever coming over, come on over. This is it. I'm not coming back no more. They swore I was lying. They swore I was lying. I went to the ATM. I got 200 out. Then I started out with 200. I said, get whatever you want. Get the scratch-offs. Because when we went to the store, and when he had all that money, and anybody that came over and had all that money, we had like a ritual of what we would get. Cases of beer, champagne bottles, a couple packs of cigarettes, about 10 lighters, stems. We need stems to smoke, coke. Stems and scratch-offs. Had to get them scratch-offs. Because scratch-offs, if you win, you back out there again. You got more money. So I said, get whatever you want. I'm going to the store. This is it. This is my last day. Nobody believed me. I promise you, nobody believed me. They got what they wanted. We sat at the table. I threw everything in the garbage after the night was over. And I quit. So every time they would ring my bell, because they thought I ain't quit. So they would come over. But they was used to coming over. I got up and I bought the car. I quit and I bought the car. Every time they rang that bell, just like Maslow's theory. Remember Maslow's theory when you used to be in school? Every time they rang the bell, the dog knew it was time to eat. Remember that? I used Maslow's theory. And I said, every time they ring my doorbell, I'm going to get in the car and go to that meeting. The Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Every time they rang that bell, I went to the meeting. So the first time I went to the meeting, they said, anybody coming in for the first time, stand up, and we're going to give you a round of applause. I stood up, and people clapped for me. They gave me a list of phone numbers. So every time they rang that bell, I started calling them phone numbers too. From Narcotics Anonymous, and nobody would answer. They said, call the next one. Nobody don't answer, call the next one. I had books of numbers, just calling them till somebody answered. And I was like, they ringing my bell. They're trying to get upstairs. He said, get away from the window. Get away from the window. Get in your car and come to a meeting. Go to the meeting. So then I knew when they rang the bell, just go to a meeting. They rang the bell almost the same time every night. And I would go to the meeting, and they still kept saying, oh, she must be up there getting high by herself. She don't want nobody to. I wasn't. I quit. And it's been 12 years now that I quit. 12 years. Mm-hmm. 12 years now. Mm-hmm. And I seen it all. In Manhattan, I seen it all. I seen people get thrown downstairs and the fiends run their pockets and thrown out the building, took their shoes off. I seen people get thrown off of roofs in Manhattan. I seen people shoot up in their neck or in their feet, in their groin. I seen it all. I seen people take all their clothes off and run down the street dancing. But I never did heroin. I never liked it. I hated what it did to people. It made them look so old and ugly. And heroin addicts would always snap on you. You never know what they're really thinking. And all of a sudden, they'll just hit you over the head with something, and they always say they were so sorry, but I couldn't stand heroin addicts. I couldn't stand the heroin. The people didn't bother me. They said, okay, you got $10, I would give it to them because I was so afraid. I seen the things they do to people and say, they're so sorry. I knew a heroin addict, she cut me. She see this right here? She cut me in the face. She cut me. Yeah. So I wear the scars, the battle scars. But now, I have to say my life is so much better. I could just cry. My life is so good. I could just cry because I don't got to worry about every day where I'm getting my next $100 from or who I'm getting it from or this drug wasn't no good. Let's go back out there. They robbed me. Let's go back out there. I robbed them. I don't got to do that anymore. Now I run my own organization, a pantry called Beautiful Women Empowering Women. I go out and feed the homeless twice a month. I love doing it. I sell T-shirts to make the money, to give them a prepackaged meal that I make at home. I got a certificate to be able to do food service. And I go out and feed the homeless because I remember standing in the bread line myself with nothing to eat. I remember being so hungry, eating oodles and noodles every day. I remember going to this one shelter, like they serve food for lunch. They would sell chili. They served chili every day. I ate chili every day for 30 days. Like I couldn't stand chili after I did that. But that was before I met the guy and before I understood that drugs wasn't the answer,
Was it primarily crack?
Huh?
Crack cocaine was primarily what were you using most days?
I was smoking crack primarily for all those years. I smoked crack for all those years.
Was that it? What were you doing?
We used to cook it up and we used to sniff. In the beginning, we sniff coke, but it advances on. The disease of addiction advances forward. It advances. Because some of my friends, I still used to keep in touch with them, but they don't even call no more. Because they stayed out there. They're still out there, and it's been 12 years, and they're still out there,
So you said you were free from it from 89 days, and then that last day you went back, until the 90th day. Then you went back to using it.
I went back for a year and a half.
But how difficult was it in those what's
the rock bottom?
The withdrawal of it, like.
Oh, you don't have withdrawals from coke.
Okay,
you don't.
Okay.
It's only from dope.
So you didn't have any sickness?
No, it's like a mental thing. You think you want it. You just want it. It's not you. Your body don't physically need it. But my rock bottom was, we got put out the apartment when I lived in Irvington. The landlord wouldn't put the heat on, and I had the baby there. I couldn't stay there with no heat. So we had to leave, and the baby had to go back to the hospital because she started losing weight. So thank God she was back at the hospital because we left the apartment. The apartment I was moving into wasn't ready yet. And I didn't know that until I went there that day, and they said your apartment is not ready yet. And thank you. And I had to sleep at Penn Station. In Newark, I slept at Penn Station. I don't wish that on anybody. That's why I don't have a problem every 2 weeks getting up and go feeding those people, because I know what they going through sleeping at Penn Station. They don't even let you sleep. The police come and shake you every half an hour and say, you got to get up from here, you got to get up. So you can't even sleep. They wake you up every half an hour. Those people are hungry. And you don't know what hungry is. Like, if you didn't eat today, you think you're hungry. Hungry is if you haven't eaten in 3 days. You're hungry. And these people, some of them, haven't even eaten all month. You know, they're waiting for me to come. And when I come there every 2 weeks, and they're so appreciative, I cry every time. They thank me so much. And I can see the improvement in them. When I first came, their clothes was dirty. They were not well kept. And now that I go whether it's raining, I go to 900 Franklin Avenue in Newark. That's where I give out food at. I go whether it's raining. I go whether it's hot outside. I go straight from doing an overnight at work, straight to give them the food. Sometimes I have to go home and cook the prepackaged meals. I don't care how tired I am. I do that service work, because without Narcotics Anonymous, I'd be dead right now. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. I would have probably been beat with baseball bats, be somebody, some pimp or whatever, would be telling me what to do. All my teeth probably would be knocked out. All my mind would be gone, and I wouldn't even know what my daughter is if it wasn't for Narcotics Anonymous.
And you say it was a sign, you heard something.
It was a sign from God.
And on that day, you never used it again.
I never used it again.
After that last day, you never touched it.
After that last
day. And
day.
if somebody came to you, you just went to a meeting. If someone rang your doorbell, you went to a meeting.
If somebody rang, it's Maslow's theory, just like they call it. I didn't know it really worked. I knew it worked for animals, but I didn't think. But I remembered it. I remembered it from going to school. I said, every time they ring that bell, I'm going to jump up and go to the meeting. And then it became 30 days, 60 days at the meeting, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, and now it's 12 years. 12 years.
Okay.
I feel like a whole totally different person too. Like this, you. Sometimes I can be the old person. If somebody pushes the wrong button, I could be her right now. But I feel like a totally different person. Like, I had to introduce myself to the new me. I didn't even know my family because I had been out there for 34 years. Since I was 16 years old, I was getting high for 34 years. I didn't know my family. I had to re-meet my family and, learn their likes and dislikes and be okay with it, because they didn't believe I quit at first. My mother, she did not believe it. I quit at first. At times, she used to say, where'd you get that money from? You're selling drugs again? Or whatever, comment. And that's the money I worked for. I would go by and, bring her flowers or something like that, Or my mother was so used to me having money, too, when I was out there. She was used to me having a lot of money as well, and riding around in new cars and all of that. But then she started to notice I changed, I changed.
So would you say, like, during that period where, you were wrapped up in everything, you were just doing your own thing. You kind of ignored everybody around you. You didn't want.
Nobody was important.
Yeah, you didn't have time.
Nope. If you didn't have any money for me, I wouldn't even acknowledge you sitting here at the table. I wouldn't even acknowledge you. I wouldn't be disrespectful, but I wouldn't acknowledge you. There wasn't no reason for me to acknowledge you. Like that's how cold I was. I was very cold, and they used to call me volatile and unapproachable. They thought I was unapproachable. But if you needed something, I gave it to you. I couldn't stand when the people be $1 short. Say the drug costs 20, and the man said, you got 19, I ain't giving it to you. I would give the person $1. I hated that. I hated it. Those are the things that made me quit. Those little things that, why you gonna take somebody through all that for $1? You know what I'm saying? And then I used to get money so frequently, they would charge me more money than they would charge somebody who who don't have it. I said, why is you giving me the same thing you giving him? But he paid $10 and I paid 20, you know. And then if they got caught, they would make up for it. But they would use manipulative tactics because I ain't let them bully me like that. I'm saying I'm your customer. I knew a lot about, I went to college, so I knew a lot about economics and how it worked. Like, I'm your customer. You're supposed to make me happy. Don't you want me to come back? So that's the manipulation I used to do to get what I wanted, but I never thought they were my friends. They never had any respect for me, and I knew I was a customer, and I never came out of that realm. I never thought they were my friends. I never wanted something I couldn't pay for. If I borrowed money, I paid him back. One man I owed, and that's because he died, and I owe him $30 right to this day. And if he didn't die, I would have paid him. Mm-hmm. I didn't leave and owe everybody. I said, sometimes your integrity to me matters the most in your character. Mm-hmm. Honesty and integrity. Like, everything ain't worth lying about. Like, sometimes you can get the same thing from the person by telling the truth. And right now, I just try to be consistent with doing my charity work and my organization, bwew.org, Beautiful Women Empowering Women. And what we do is give a yearly Women's Day. We couldn't because of the COVID, but I still went out and gave out masks and hand sanitizers to anybody on the street because people forgot about them on the street. At first, they weren't providing that for them. Everybody ran in the house. These people were still outside and they still needed. And where I worked at, they gave me like cases of masks at the pharmaceutical company. Mm-hmm. So I gave them the masks from there. And then I started buying them on Amazon. And then I started fundraising to collect money to give them hand sanitizer, masks. So then I started selling T-shirts. And the T-shirts helped the proceeds to feed the people. And now, right now, I'm looking to move to a building with the organization. I'm trying to get a grant and a 501(c) so that I could be tax exempt and maybe we could start. What I want to do is I want to service all the shelters with prepackaged meals. So I want to partner with a caterer so that I could have a little van and drive around like the Uber Eats in a way and give prepackaged meals to shelters. Mm-hmm. So at night, they at least have a meal,
Yeah.
Go to bed with a meal. Mm-hmm. So that's my dream, to do that. And I'm going to keep working on it until I get there. Yeah. I want to give back to the community that I did all those terrible things I did. And I want to give back to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Today I have a heart. I care about people.
Yeah.
And I know I'm a good person, and I try to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my story. Yeah. That's my story. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. I think my lowest point was sleeping at Penn Station. It was humiliating. I never saw myself doing it. Mm-hmm. After all that money, I ended up sleeping at Penn Station anyway. So did it even matter?
And was that at the end of your addiction, where you were sleeping in Penn Station? Was that?
It was when my daughter was 1 year old, I think, about one, going on one. So I still went back and got high after that. But that was the rock bottom.
That was the rock bottom.
Yeah, that was the rock bottom. And to see my boyfriend die like that, and he didn't take his high blood pressure medication. He had a stroke. And we rushed him to the hospital, but he never came back out. But he always told me, pay attention to the money. pay attention to the money. Because I wasn't. I could spend it so freely. I wasn't paying attention to it. But now I pay attention to it. I have gratitude in my life now. I'm grateful, you know.
Okay. I think you. I don't know if I have any questions right now. Like, you pretty much went through everything. I would ask you some things, but
You can.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, what are some of the people that went to NA? I don't know if you can share, but like, what were some of the story? I mean, I know there's some like privacy things you might want to share.
But I don't have to say their name. What got me one day? This one man. He said he was molested by his father, and then molested by his brother, and then he said he was living under the Brooklyn Bridge. You know the Brooklyn Bridge, right? He said God found him under there. And that just, I don't know. That story just, I don't know what it is. It's just, I know he wanted to give up. I know he did. And this is why I'm doing this for you. So that the person out there that wants to give up, just make it to a meeting. Just make it to a Narcotics Anonymous AA, some kind of meeting. Use the hotline. Ask for help. Go on, Google it. Go on Instagram or Facebook and connect with a page that could help you get to rehab and start your life over. Because the real message is it's never too late to start your life over. It's not. I seen people walk in the meeting that's 60 years old right now, that's 70, 80 years old, and they just got today. You know what I mean? And then I seen people walk in their 20s and they just starting out. So the message is hope and the promise is freedom from active addiction. That's what they promise you. That's it. The message is hope and the promise is freedom. I know a guy that he say that every meeting, and that's what the coined phrases, they stuck with me, because lost dreams do reawaken and lost dreams reawaken and new opportunities will arrive. You know what I'm saying? That's how I'm sitting here now. I never thought I could be an actress now. At my age, at 58, I'm an actress now. I did my first commercial and I did another documentary. And none of these things would have happened if I gave up. I flew out of the country. I've been to Jamaica. I'm going in September again. I've been to Las Vegas, one of my favorite places to go. I've been to Florida, plenty of times to Miami. But none of that would have happened if I gave up, And you will have to leave some people behind. The painful thing is I had to leave some people behind that right now they're still out there. But I had to love myself enough, honestly, to be open to meeting new people. And some of the people I met now are so nice. They are so good. And we're always together and we're calling each other, being supportive. No matter what they do in their life, I support them as well as they support me and my cause, But I would have never met those people if I stayed out there trying to get one more. That's all it is. They say one is too many, 1,000 is never enough. But it's like chasing one more. Let me just get one more. And now you don't even know what you're getting. You could get fentanyl. You could be gone, because another story happened recently in the meeting. A guy came in and said his girlfriend died because she got the fentanyl. And the next day, he died. He came in telling us she died and got high right behind that, thinking that he wasn't going to die. He died the next day. He was sitting right next to me. the day before,
Mm.
and he died
Yeah.
the next day. I couldn't believe it. I kept saying, no, he didn't. They said, Gayle, he died the next day.
So you think maybe if you're still, if you're still using and stuff, there would be a good chance you would have came across fentanyl.
I would have died. Yep. I either would have
Because
came across fentanyl, I would have gotten the wrong car with a weirdo, a nutty man. I would have, I remember my girlfriend got in the car, just going back to my story. She got in the car with the wrong man. She came back shaking. I never seen somebody shaking so bad. He had stuck a curling iron up a vagina. You know what I'm saying? And he had my number because that was where she was living. And I told him, don't you ever call back here again, or I'm going to call the police on you. I'm going to make sure you come to pick her up, and the police going to be standing there to pick you up. And it was a horrible, horrible act. Horrible. She was shaking like that for almost 2 weeks. I guess the pain was excruciating, But that was that heroin, too. It was that heroin that had her even go out with him. But some of the things that happened, some of the stories, you never forget it. You never forget it. But you won't go back when you remember it. You won't go back. You won't go back.
Okay.
Some of them near misses, okay? Sometimes I had just turned the corner and somebody robbed everybody when I had just left. Or somebody did a drive-by and was shooting. I just went in the store to get a scratch off. So that's how I knew that God was behind it. God was behind it. Yep. Because I got baptized again since I got clean. I got baptized at 5 o'clock in the morning in New Hope Baptist Church. And I wanted to be baptized again. They said, why you want to be baptized? I was baptized as a child. I said, I don't remember it. I want to know I was baptized. So I became a Christian. And I thank God for saving my life. I know I have a bigger purpose. I feel I'm walking toward it. I feel I'm walking toward it.
You feel there's like some
divine intervention.
Divine intervention. Something saved you a couple times. You were in a couple near misses.
It always told me when to leave. It always did. It said, you better leave right now. I could almost hear it. The voice. I could almost hear it. I remember being in college, because I went to college I went back to college. When I left Ohio and I quit, I went back since I got clean and got my degree. I have a bachelor's in business administration and an associate's degree, both. But I remember one day not studying. I was in the master's degree program, but I couldn't finish it working 2 jobs. I don't know, I might go back to complete that as well. But it's hard to work 2 jobs and complete that. It's almost impossible. But with the master's degree, I'm gonna go back for. But with the bachelor's degree, I did work 2 jobs and got the bachelor's degree online. I got it at Thomas Edison State College. But what was I getting ready to say? Oh shoot, I forgot. But I went back and got the degree. And I remember one day I didn't study. I said, I'm going to fail this test. I had 2 jobs. I didn't have time to study. I had this boss that was always on my back. She drove me nuts. She was always on my back. So I said, I'm going to have to take this class over, I promise you, when I sat down, the camera is on you while you take the test. So you can't, online test, they could see you on camera while you're taking the test. I was taking the test. I did not know the answers at all. And all of a sudden, when I was taking the test, I heard a voice. I'm telling you, it's this voice that's been with me all my life. It said, circle B, circle C, circle A. It told me it only got 1 wrong. That's probably because I didn't hear it. I heard it wrong. You know what I'm saying? But that's how I passed that test. I did not know the answers. To this day, I don't know the answers. I bought a laptop, so I went to college. I didn't even know how to use a laptop. I went to Walmart, I bought a laptop, Hewlett Packard, popped it open, and taught myself. That's how I went to college. I didn't know the mouse, I didn't know the commands, I didn't know nothing. I didn't even know how to do a paper, but the computer works so well, you could just format and just start typing, and it'll format your paper for you, or what have you. Yeah, so I did go back to college and got my degree. I did. A lot happened in 12 years. A lot happened.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good way to end it. That's a nice way to end it. Yeah, but I appreciate everything. It's a interesting story for sure. And,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be nice to share this with people. They'll get some inspiration for sure.
Yeah.
People will definitely connect with this. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like a survivalist. The people that be on Survivor?
Yeah.
I feel like one of them in a way.
Yeah. Right. You almost couldn't picture getting through some of the things you've been through.
Yeah, it was a hole I climbed out of. I mean, I don't wish that on nobody. That hole was very deep. Very deep and a lot of pain, but it also, thank God that he came back for me. He did. He came back for me.
Would you say without faith or without that, you wouldn't be able to? Would you say it would have been too strong for you to overcome? But you had that faith that got you through it. And
Yeah.
Would you say that was the reason?
It was it. I remember that trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. So more than try to understand what's going on with you, just trust him. That's it. And I don't try to say it and not live by it. You know what I'm saying? I listen to, like 4 hours a day, I listen to the gospel, a pastor or preacher. And I did this for at least 4 years. And 4 hours, when I worked, we could wear the earbuds. I would listen 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon for 4 years. Look, I have a lot of sermons like inside, so I can relate to them when I'm at my lowest point. I can relate to them. But the isolation, at some point, God wants you to be by yourself. The isolation was hard to deal with at first. You know it, right? Yeah. Because until you fully know yourself, you can't be of service to anyone, and you can't work for him, without being able to get past those fears. So I got past a lot of my fears. Yeah.
Do you listen to like
T.D. Jakes,
okay,
and Jamal Bryant, Juanita Bynum, Sarah Jakes. Those are my favorite ones. I listen to weekly. And now I can say for people, I can help people like who going through things. People call me and I walk them out of the spiral. So when they start spiraling, I know how to go in and stop them and bring them out of the spiral, bring them out. Because I trust in the Holy Spirit to bring me out. But when they start spiraling or they want to be, they don't have acceptance of because God puts things in your path to make you a better person. It's not to punish you. Because if I didn't make it through all this, I couldn't sit here and give that word I gave to you to share with somebody who might be thinking of killing themselves. You never know. You really never know why we're sitting here together right now and how it could help somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think it's a good way to end. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. But
I'm happy with it.
yeah. Nice. Okay. So.
I tried to be as truthful as